Hi, my name's Pete McGrane. Most of you know me. I'm here because I'm campaigning for Vice President of Local 2928. In reality, I'm also campaigning for the President's spot of 2928, which will be up in 2 years. As some of you know, most of you I hope, I've been running for that position for approximately 25 years. That slogan, McGrane in 2014, that was for real. It's my goal to be President of the Union. And I think by being the Vice President of the Union first, it'll be an easier transition in 2 years when your President comes out of the drought plan and retires. A little bit of housekeeping, if you don't mind. There are other candidates in the race. They're all good county guys. They've all been active in the Union at one time or another. And I'm not here to say anything bad about any of them. You deserve more than that. You're better than that, and I would like you to think that I'm better than that also. So just do your research and vote intelligently is all I can ask you. Okay, since we can't talk about them, let's talk about my favorite subject, me. As I said, I'm an active and involved member of Local 2928 for 25 years, and I currently serve as your union trustee for the past several years. I've been involved as a good and welfare guy at one time. I've served as chairman of the elections committee. I'm the creator of the modern day Christmas party that you all enjoy, and I like to call myself the father of special events. No fault of the union, or management really, we weren't set up to do them. I wanted to do them. So what I did was gather all the business I could get and steal from the private ambulance companies, hired our guys to work the events. And then as soon as we were able to work special events through the county, I immediately gave all those jobs over to the union, and it's just blown up into this great thing that it is today. Now, on a political side, recently I was the campaign liaison for Mark Marciano, who ran for Congress. He didn't win, but his political outlook was in line with ours, and so we supported him. Previous to that, I was the campaign liaison for Karen Marcus for her last bid for county commissioner. And Jeff Atwater, who's a great friend of the firefighters and a CFO of the entire state, is a neighbor of mine, a friend of mine. I worked with him on his first 2 campaigns, and I coached his son in hockey for several years also. Now, these are not reasons to vote for me. This was a labor of love. I was glad to do all those things, and since I enjoyed doing them, it was at no personal sacrifice to me, and I don't expect you to vote for me for these reasons. However, I have made some great personal sacrifices in order to represent you, and they're kind of silly, but they're as follows. First off, it's just human nature that a fat guy is perceived as a jolly, easygoing guy, and a thin guy looks more serious. Trust me, with the issues we have in front of us today, if I'm going to represent you, I need to be taken very, very seriously. And in that vein, I've lost 20 pounds since December 1st, so that I can be taken seriously and represent you and look good. Also, after 60 years of biting my nails to the second knuckle down, I quit biting them on December 1st because I don't want to represent you looking like a slob. And so, check these out. Now, there's a story going around about a guy who, on his very last day of work, his truck was scheduled to go to headquarters and do the training for that air management drill. Now, this guy came to his very last day of work, and he was going to take his gear off the truck and go home for the rest of his life. But his truck was scheduled to go, and he went. And he did the drill. And I am that guy. Now, why did I do that? I didn't do it because I thought I was going to set some world record of fire running through the course. I actually went around once and maybe 2 or 3 more events, and then had to walk for like a half an hour. But I did it for this reason. I didn't want to come to you today, and I knew I would be talking to you about supporting me for vice president and have you the idea that I was better than you in some way or had some entitlement because I was older or I was leaving. So that's the reason I did that, and these are reasons that you should vote for me. Now, what should we talk about next? Okay, there's some talk or some concern, and it's not a lot, but I'm doing here it is. I'm making the rounds of the station. I've been about 125 places so far, including most of the cities on every shift, and I'm trying to get to all of you guys, but the mums is making it impossible. There is some talk about there is why should a retired guy represent me, or how can a retired guy represent me effectively? He has nothing to gain and there's no dog in the fight for him. And I feel really that it's just the opposite of that is true, that a retired guy would be the best guy to represent you for a number of reasons. Number one, I already represent you as your union trustee, and nobody seems to be unhappy with that job. As a bit of history, Dominic Barbera has been representing the Dade County firefighters as a retired guy for 2 decades. He's doing a fine job down there. I don't need union time pool to represent you. This time can be freed up for some other person to use, and really you're getting like more bang for your buck. 2 for 1 is always a good deal. I don't have any hidden agenda. I can't be promoted to fire chief. They can't buy me off in any way. And the flip side of that coin is I can say and do whatever I want with no fear of retribution. And I can't tell you how liberating that is when you go in to do a grievance and there's no repercussions for what you say. I'm not that I'm going to belittle anybody or insult them in any way. That's not my style, but I can just say the truth and what it is, and that's where it is. Being an older guy, my kids are grown and they're gone. I don't really have any great hobbies, so I got plenty of time to represent you. I am available weekends, nights. I often go to those Chamber of Commerce dinners and those Chamber of Commerce breakfasts and speak at county commission meetings and various city commission meetings and so on like that. I got no problem with that, and I'm good with that. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the issues, because really that's why we're here, isn't it? You know what they are. You read the same papers as me. You get the same mail from 2928 and IAFF that I get. And hopefully you voted for the same politicians that I did, because we got to stick together on that. Anyway, the way I see it with the issues, it's basically that 3-shell game where you put the P under the shells and you move them all around and guess which one's got the P and you can win. Except I don't feel this time there's any P, it's just the game, no P under the shells. And what I'm talking about is in the 3 shells, let's take the first shell and let's call that the local fire chiefs, who will negotiate our contract with us, and your county commissioners who have, told them, balance your budget, we've got to balance our county budget, and they're looking to balance their budget on the backs of the firefighters, because really, the second most expensive expense in the county is the firefighters, the sheriff being the first, and the most expensive part of the firefighter budget is labor. These people are going to be involved in such issues as what your pay is, how much sick time you get, how much vacation time, what kind of Cali days, staffing policies, overtime, local stuff like that. Under shell number 2, which also has no P, is your state elected officials in Tallahassee, your senators and your congressmen. Now they want to balance the state budget on the backs of the firefighters. They don't have much influence on your pay and your daily doings and operations down here at the county level. So really all they can do is fiddle around with your pension and your retirement, your FRS basically for you county guys, and changing the laws of how cities do things. They can do that at the state level too. So they want to balance their budget at your expense and make their coffers fuller on the backs of the firefighters' pensions. And you know what they want, because you've seen it in the governor's proposal in that House Bill 303, what that was. Now that bill's come and gone. There's many more like it in the pipeline. What'll be the final bill? What they'll finally go after, I don't know. But they're all going to have the same kind of elements in them. And what they want is, they want you to, for the first time ever, pay for your pension. They want you to work longer till you're available to get your pension. No 25 years and out kind of thing. If you're 18, you're not going to retire at 43. They want you to work till you're 55. They want the amount of time that you're vested in your pension to increase from 6 years to 10. They want the multiplier of your pension to drop from 3% to 2%. They want nothing to be included in your pay for your final calculation but your base pay. Now if you're a paramedic in the county, you just lost 18% of your retirement, because paramedic pay in the county is an assignment pay. Also anything like special operations or going to days, that would be assignment pay. They don't want to include anything like education pay in the cities. They don't want to include any of that vacation buyout that you sell at the end, where you can sell those hours back and it's added into your salary and figured in your final year's compensation. No incentives, no special events, no overtime, no anything but your base pay. Some of these people want to remove your 3% cost of living increase every year once you are retired. Now what that means is you retire today and you get a check. Your average fireman supposedly, statistically, lives 10 years and doesn't collect his pension after that anyway. But should you live 30 years from today, you will get the exact same check without a cost of living raise. So everybody just think back to what your father made in 1970 and ask yourself, could you live on that today? And I think you'll see the answer is no. This would be bad. They want to take away your health insurance subsidy. That's at $5 per month per year of service that the state kicks in for you to buy insurance with. And they want to do away with the drop next year in 2012 if they get their way. They want to tinker with a system that isn't broken. Our fund is the best friend in the country. It's properly funded. It's in no distress and it doesn't need fixing. So, who are these guys? What are they doing? This particular guy for this Bill 303, he's a new congressman from Ormond Beach, Florida, a sleepy little town just north of Daytona on the beach. He's unfortunately done nothing wrong. He is sent there to Congress in Tallahassee by conservative Republicans and Tea Party people, and all he's doing is standing up there with the mandate they sent him with and saying, look at me, I'm doing your bidding, and I wrote this bill. Now, as I said, that bill is gone, but there's more like it on the way. That's the democratic process. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing except that it affects us. Okay, under the third shell over here is public sentiment, and as you know, there's absolutely no P under there anymore. Public sentiment has faded away. If you look in the stories in the Palm Beach Post, if there's a story about firemen, the backstory to that is on the internet and a bunch of blogs, and for every good thing someone says about a firefighter, there's 10 people saying bad things. The public's hurting and they see us not as really a problem, but they're just angry in general, and we're going to get the fallout from that. Alright, this is all great, and these things are important, and they need to be watched, and for sure they should be watched, and I don't have an answer for what we're going to do for these things, and nobody does, because we don't even know yet where the actual final attack will come from, and no plan has particularly been made on what to do, where we're going to give a dime when they want $1, where we're going to fall back and draw a line in the sand and say we absolutely cannot live with this. I don't know where that'll be, but whatever we all decide as a group, I will certainly work towards that effort. Unfortunately, I see this as an economic problem, and the only thing that will fix it is the economy must improve. And on a good side, not right now, but the economy is a cyclical thing. It goes up, it goes down, and at some point in time it will and must improve. There were years when I started where we were making 3%, and some senator or congressman said, hey, we can't afford that in the early 90s, so the economy was down a little bit. Let's pay 2%. Eventually someone came along and the economy was good, and they said, let's raise it to 3%, but we really can't afford to. Let's pay 2.25%, 2.5%, 2.75%, and eventually back to 3%. And the economy improved and the real estate boomed, and somebody came along and said, you know, we got plenty of money, let's raise it and sweep it back retroactive, everybody gets 3%. So the older guys, they have no years at 2% because the economy was good. And the economy will be good again, but when you don't want to be caught on the bad end of it, it could be bad. But like I said, I feel these things are very important, but I think it's like the hands up here and distraction saying, you know, we're going to get this, we're going to get that. And the real issue, and nobody's talking about it, and for some reason, I don't know if nobody's seeing it or they don't get it or what, but they're up here distracting us with these issues while they're down here cutting us off at the knees. And what I mean by that is they're dividing a wedge in between the firefighters themselves to split us apart so we're easier to defeat, quiet, beat, any way you want to call it. It's called divide and conquer, you've all heard it. And this is a way bigger problem, and I'm going to speak specifically to two issues that, as I'm making the rounds of the stations they're talking about. And we can't do business that way. We never have done it as separate groups. We all stick together within the firehouse, within each fire group.